Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Anami Samson is my name, a software engineer. So today we want to look at what you need to consider before choosing a tech stack. So as a software engineer, or if you are an aspiring software engineer, you need to choose a stack, or rather select a language or select a tech stack that will lead you into something. So today I'm discussing five major items that you need to consider if you want to choose a tech stack. So let's kick it off. So the first one is the project. So first you need to understand your project. What do you want to do with your system in terms of functionality? What are the functionality in your system? For example, a note-taking software doesn't need a very complicated enterprise level programming stack, or rather programming paradigm. Number two is scalability. How wide is your software going to be? Let's say, for example, if I'm doing a software for a country, I'll not need to think about scalability to that extent of a worldwide extent. But if I'm doing a project or a software to be used worldwide, then I need to think on tech stack that will always allow scalability to the greatest extent. That's number two on what you check at. And then there's also, you might look at, are you doing a streaming project? Is it a streaming video streaming project like Netflix? Maybe you're making a website for Netflix where people will be streaming video. That will very highly determine the kind of tech stack that you're picking. Also, the amount of data that you expect to get into your system. For example, if I'm dealing with 100 customers or a data of 100 people, that will not need a very sophisticated programming tech stack, but a simple language and a simple stack will do. Otherwise, if I'm doing a very big project, let's say I'm doing a project for 1 million plus people that will need to interact with my system on daily, hourly, or maybe TPS or transaction per second is high, very high in terms of 100,000s or millions, I'll need now to think more on which stack will I pick. Number three is reporting, and which in this case is which amount of data do I need to report, particularly for this particular project. How much data do I need to process? And at the end of it, a software leads to a report, which now will lead to an insight. If you're doing a business product, of which in software we do a lot of software, they all revolve around business at the end of it. So you need to know, how do I extract data from this system? Now that will also advise on which stack will best present your data. For example, the presentation on Python is different from the presentation that the capability that PHP has to do. Number three is the traffic, which is also relate directly to the scalability, the amount of people that will be interacting with this system. For example, you might have a system, let's say a ticketing system, that will be used on the deadline. Let's say if you're in Africa, a lot of people will pick their tickets at the last day, for example. Or maybe you're doing a taxation system. Let's say you're doing a KRA or TRA in Tanzania, or in Uganda, you're doing a software product that you know people will land at it at the end, or at the last minute, or the last point is where now you'll expect a lot of traffic. Or if it's a ticketing system, maybe let's say in the off-peak, or rather in the evening is when you expect a lot of traffic. Maybe within an hour you'll receive a lot of traffic. Think of any system that will be used intensively in a very short period. Now that one still will affect the type of language. So all that is now depending on that project requirement that you're doing. So project will highly determine, that's the number one key feature that you need to check at the end of these, which particular kind of projects will I be doing. And this also will be advised by which company am I targeting to get employed for. So that's number one. Number two, you need also to know the team and the company that's supposed to maybe pick you or hire you, or which company are you inspiring, or are you inspired to be employed for. So that will also highly affect your learning curve. So let's say, for example, I want to be employed by a tech company, say Google, or let's say I want to be employed by my local company, let's say that does point of sale system, or a local company that does a document management system, or a local or a international, maybe say something like PayPal or PayPal and stuff like that, that does fintech or financial systems. That company probably will determine the type of tech stacks that I need to know. However, this is on a light note because a lot of companies will just hire you with what you have, so long as you understand the programming aspects of maybe data structures and stuff to do with algorithms. They'll just pick you with the language that you know, and then they'll ask you questions around those two aspects or three aspects in programming, which doesn't change. The structure doesn't change, but now the language, they'll ask you to do it in your language. Once they hire you, they'll now streamline you to what they want. Let's say if they want you to learn this particular tech stack that is used within the enterprise or within the company, now they'll align you the first 2 or 3 months. Having the basics in one stack, that like what we'll be going through in some few days to come, it will enable you now to work in any company depending now on what they do. First, you'll have the general basics of programming, and then out of that now you can explore in different other stacks. So the first stack is usually the hardest if you're a beginner, but if you're an expert, at least you know what to look in a stack. So this tutorial is basically for beginners and also for experts who want to specialize in the stack that we'll choose at the end of this. So after that, also the company size will determine. For example, if you have a startup, if you're doing a software for a startup, you'll not need to think about enterprise designs or enterprise languages that are supposed to be used. For example, messaging and queuing platforms are not really used in simple projects done by startups, unless it's a very big or maybe a booming startup that is starting up by picking enterprise projects. Also, you need to know your team. For example, if you have a larger team, then picking a sophisticated language or a stack is not a big deal because you'll have a lot of experts around different areas. But if you only have 1 or 2 developers, then you need to be very specific on what exactly stack do I pick that will allow all the 2 of us or the 3 of us to be full stack and develop this thing quickly. So that's number 2. Number 3, you also need to see the architecture, or rather the ecosystem that you're developing your system around. So for example, if the structure is so complicated, then you need to think through the language, or rather the stack that you're picking. Also, there are some items like the community support that you need to know. For example, if I pick a language like a known language like Java, or say Python, or say Go, or say Node.js, I'm expecting to get a good traction in terms of the community around it. So if I'm stuck in doing some item, I can easily run online and find some content around the same, and find some support or some developers around the same. And this one also advise the CEOs and stuff in managerial level, because they'll need to know a language that has a bigger community, so that in getting a developer, it's easy to them. If they want to just hire or scale a developer in terms of scaling their human resource, they'll need to easily find a community that they can hire from. Also, you look at the libraries and tools that are available. For example, something like Java, they have a lot of tools and libraries available there, done by the community at the same time. So these will also help you in terms of choosing these languages. Then future proofing. For example, we don't want to do a stack that in 2 years to come, because tech is growing every day, we don't want to do a stack that after 2 years then we don't have a backward compatibility, and also we are running, or rather we are chasing after technology. We want a robust stack that will always be on top in terms of updates, in terms of doing the sophisticated problems or challenges that are coming in. We can easily curate a solution for them. Then the last item around the architecture is the industrial standards. So for example, if you want to do a system that is within a certain standard, for example in an enterprise organization, this doesn't really work for startups. A lot of startups they are not into that maturity level of standards, some of them. So you'll find that, but if you're doing a bank system or a corporate system or an enterprise system, you'll need to really focus on industry standards. Pick a language that is up there in terms of standards, so that your software will be valuable and much easily marketable and also easily sellable. So that all majorly affects those guys in the leadership, or rather those tech leads and those guys who are there in managerial, to pick these languages for their company. But for you if you're just a developer, single developer, beginner, or maybe an expert developer, you need to just think on a light note around these features, because now you'll do a number of projects. You're not stuck to one project. And also, if you're seeking up to get employed, now you need to know which company you're aspiring to be employed for. So that will highly affect our decision making. So the next two, which is in terms of now picking, will I be a full stack developer? Will I be a front end developer? Will I be a back end developer? That now will be highly determined on now your preference. So first, understand that a front-end developer is a customer facing, so you need to be very good at cosmetics and making a system that easily appeals to crowd without struggling. That revolves around the user interface, that is UI, and the UX, which is user experience. You need to be really good at that, or rather you'll need also to have support around the same. But either way, if you want to be a front-end developer, maybe doing mobile apps, or maybe doing websites and stuff like that, or maybe doing prompts, you need to be very good at articulation of colors, articulation of doing a system that appeals to the audience. If you're good in that, then you can go into front end and pick a stack around front end. For the back end guys, are these people who are very good in terms of now doing the logics, the business logic and the application logic, doing the database designs and stuff. Though these days we have database administrators supporting in the same, but you might land in a company that doesn't have all those specialized experts in the same. So in that case, you need also to know that as a backend developer, you will most probably interact with the database. Also in that, you learn how to now ship the items. You might land in a company that doesn't have these GTOPs, doesn't have these DevOps in place to help you ship your product or to help you deploy your software. So in that case, you'll need also to understand various items around GTOPs and DevOps to at least help you do that, together with security in some points. So that will also advise you stack. But in there, there are a number of languages within there. You'll need to also learn some database languages. You'll need to understand the relational database like the SQL, and also the non-relational like the NoSQL databases, say maybe Mongo and stuff like that. In the SQL, you might learn Postgres and stuff like that. Also in the server, we have 3 major, or maybe let's say these days are 4 major. We have the AWS, which is the Amazon Web Services. We have the Azure, and we have the Google Cloud. Among that also we have one prominent one, which is DigitalOcean, which is doing a good stuff within the giants. But those 4 are majorly things that you need to understand when you want to ship your product. You need to pick one of them, learn them, maybe based on the company that you get or we're working for, or either way, pick it, understand one of them. It will help you understand the rest of them. Different names will change. Some will call these one pod, some will call these one differently, but all of them revolve around the same structure. You need to have a product, you need to have a container, and then you need to ship them onto blah 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 and stuff like that. So after that, now just learn various communication platforms or protocols. Let's say the stuffs like the REST APIs, doing the SOAP APIs, the GraphQL stuff and stuff like that. So understanding also the basics of APIs with this now will advise also your ID in that. So those are the 5 items you need to consider before you pick tech stack. Now, on the next stage, I'll just highlight to you that what you need to do in terms of also picking these, because you can't be, these days you find that you can't be a front or a full stack developer in many cases, but where you're supposed to be a full stack developer is good also if you're doing front end to understand some bit of back end, if you're doing back end to understand some bit of front end, so that you know what is expected out of back end. And also sometimes you need to understand some items around deployment or maybe shipping your product. Understanding all these bits is very important to be a very robust software developer. So for this case, we just pick stack. You don't need to, like in front end, you don't need to learn. Just pick one in front end. You just pick one item, and then pick one in the back end, then pick one in the database. So let's say if you have front end, just pick one language in front end, pick one item on back end, pick one item on database, and then pick one item on version control. Let's say if this one you can pick JIT, for example, here and here and here. Now I'll tell you some of the items that you need to do. There's also NVN, I think, on this, but the most popular one is JIT, which is much recent and easy to use. That's for version control, for controlling your code and stuff, and versioning of your product, and also giving out releases. And then after that, learn one cloud platform that you'll need to host your product in. And then after that, now around this one now you'll be okay. You just need to also, on deployment, you just pick a journey, but there's a lot in terms of deployment, in terms of learning items like containerization. You need to learn items like Kubernetes within the same way. It's called K8. This is Kubernetes in that field. Something like also doing the CI/CD. That is a very important topic that you need to understand. All these will be doing it progressively in our upcoming tutorials. Now in cloud, you can learn one of AWS. There's a free token that you can use for the first few months. You can also do Azure, you can use GCP, but if you're a beginner, I'll prefer you pick either GCP or DigitalOcean. I'm not trying to market them, but I'm just telling you what is out there and it's easy to use. There are other stacks, but this one at least you'll find the community. Remember, we are looking up to these other items here. So there could be a lot of this, but then we are looking up to how is the community, how is the team, how do you expect the functionality. A lot of systems within these will work well. A lot of systems on these will work well. Now on database, just pick one NoSQL or non-structural, and then non-relational. NoSQL, like let's say you can pick Mongo. For that case, that's the most popular one. And then you can also pick one SQL. Let's say you can do MySQL or Postgres. For this one, I'll advise that. And then in here on the backend, you can pick also one language depending on what. But on the backend and front end, we'll come back to this. But there's one item here. There's one item here that these days is called integration. So in integration, this one mostly works for enterprise systems. So if you're in an enterprise environment, you'll need to pick one integration language. You learn that there's a lot around that. But now for now, I'll just look at these. So for front-end languages, if you need a mobile app, so in mobile app, you can pick one language, but either way, you can be a mobile developer or web developer, or be both. So on mobile, you can say I want to do maybe Android, React Native, or I want to do Flutter. Pick one of them. If you want to do maybe Flutter, maybe Kotlin, that will do your Android app. Sorry for that. That will do your Android app. And then this is based on Java. So if you pick Kotlin here, this under the hood is Java. So you'll need also to pick Java here on the backend and also doing front ends. Then you can also do React Native. React Native is basically on JavaScript. So here it means if you pick this one, you have picked JavaScript under the hood. So you need to understand the basics of JavaScript. So this one is for mobile app. So for mobile app, you need to pick either of these ones, right? So you can pick one out of this and run with it. That's one. So also you might decide you wanna pick for the web, you wanna pick like things like HTML and CSS. In here they're very common. You can't skip them. So you'll just start with HTML and then do some bit of CSS to just understand. Even if AI can create these codes today for you, but you need to understand the basic of what runs under the hood, so that when you ship your product and there's an issue on production, then you can easily fix it. So around these also we have some frameworks around the web development platform. Like there are items like React. I'll tell you the most popular one. Like there's React, there's Angular, and then there is Vue.js. So in this you might find all these are very relatable. They are just frameworks that lie between a lot of them, these ones between JavaScript. Also you can do stuff with Django and stuff with Python and stuff like that. So you can really explore, but now we want to pick one language in here for backend that will advise also our front end. If you decide to do Node here for the backend, then it will mean it's much easier for you to pick React or to pick Angular or Vue on the same. But if you pick something like Python in here, then on the front end you need something like Django or Flask, so to say. So in here you can just pick either one language, like Node.js, the most popular one. You can pick Python or you can pick Java. I really prefer Java because in these, but this one is basically for it has frameworks around it, a lot of plugins also, and a lot of you remember we said in terms of community you have a lot of libraries around it, but also JavaScript. If you decide to do Node, that's still fine. It has a lot of items to it. And also if you decide to do, if you're doing things to do with AI and things to do with sophisticated systems, or system that requires a lot of logics or maybe a lot of read and write within documents and stuff like that, you might also opt for Python on the same. I'll not speak much about Go, but it's a good one. You can also explore that and pick that as a programming tool for yourself. So having these, you don't need to learn all these languages that sound very ambiguous in terms of if I mention them. You just need to pick one out of each. You can come here, pick Kotlin or pick Flutter. Then come here. Of course, this one is mandatory. CSS and JV is something that you can complete within a week. And then you pick a framework. So if you pick React, you need to know some bit of JavaScript. Around that, just learn the data structure and algorithm around Java, and then learn to do them in JavaScript, and then come into this language. It will be a walkthrough, or rather a walk in the park. Then for the backend, you just need to pick one. Pick Node.js or pick Java, or pick even there's PHP, which is very underrated. Of course, I'll tell you that because it's an old language and it has a lot of good stuff in it, a lot of frameworks, a lot of nice things to do with it. It runs a bigger part of the web application that we have in the world today. So JavaScript is, however, taking over, but at least we have a lot of items done on PHP backend. So you can also explore that as an option, pick it and maybe do it. So out of that, come here, pick one language. So here if you pick Mongo Postgres, find out which one will interest you more, but it's much easier to pick a relational database first, so that you understand how different data are arranged and together with that is an easy one to start with, and then you go to now the NoSQL, which is non-relational databases. Then out of that, just learn JIT for version control. It's much easier. I have a tutorial on the same, you can check it out. Soon we'll be recording much things on these, and then this one also will revolve around, it will give you some items. Now depending on the language that you pick, it will highly affect your CI/CD item that you pick on how you want to ship your product. And CI/CD, you can use the GitLab pipelines, you can use the Jenkins, you can use a lot of technologies around that, but that is something that based on what you pick here, it will highly affect what you will take at the CI/CD level. That is if you want to have a roadmap for DevOps, or rather you want to be a full stack engineer to just understand how everything works. Later on, we'll have all these courses within our channel. We have the cloud platform that you might pick. Just pick one of them, because of also you can pick, because of cost issues, you can pick either GCP or DigitalOcean, or just try with Amazon Web Services. It's very nice, very robust. If you're targeting an enterprise organization, a lot of them use AWS, so pick either of that and then learn that. And then in terms of containerization, Kubernetes and stuff, Docker, those are something that you can do on your as an extension towards your knowledge. So out of these, you'll tell me at the end of this journey, you'll be a very good and robust software developer who can really ship items and who can really move in within teams and support each teams. So let me know your comment. Let me see what you think about what we've just spoken to, and let me know on which stack can we pick, and then we'll do one project together under that stack. We give ourselves a timeline of 1 month to complete an MVP. So click also the subscribe button and click the bell, so that when I upload that video and we start this course, we'll do a hands-on, we'll do an application. It's an application based, and we use test-driven development, whereby we'll do all the backend and front end and ship our product in either digitals and GCP or AWS. We ship it out and show you how you can create a software from start to end. Now out of that, you'll be a fully baked software engineer. Thank you guys, and see you on the next. Cheers.